So when I started transitioning over to barefoot shoes, I was always anxious about how these looked in the office. Traditionally, they're not very good looking. You don't have the heel that you would have on a traditional shoe. So I put the transition off for ages. Then I found the Vivobarefoot RA. It looks suitable for an office setting, easing my worries about standing out while giving my feet the benefits of barefoot shoes. Now this is a shoe that I spend most of my time in. It's a shoe that I always wear to the office, so I'm spending up to 8 hours a day in the shoe. Today, I'll be giving you an honest opinion, including how they've held up, what I like, what I don't like, alternatives to consider, and whether it's truly worth your money. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan and this is Wide Strides. I review wide toe box and barefoot shoes here on YouTube, and today we will be reviewing a shoe from Vivobarefoot, the RA. Firstly, let's jump over the key features of this shoe. The first key thing about this is the wide toe box, which you can see it's extremely wide compared to a traditional pointy fit. The second being a zero drop shoe, meaning from heel through to toe, shoe is on the same plane, and that differs to a traditional office shoe. You can see most office shoes traditionally have a raised heel, meaning your heel is higher than the toes. The third being the flexible materials and also outsole. This shoe is extremely flexible. You can roll it up into a tight ball and there's not very much structure to it anywhere. If you look at a traditional office shoe, it's almost the complete opposite. You have very little give in the shoe. The material is very stiff, so it inhibits your foot movement a lot and isn't great for foot health. My first impressions of this shoe was just how flexible and soft that leather actually is. The upper, the lining and the tongue is made of one material. It's actually made from a wide hide leather. With that though, the upper does crease very quickly. Almost on my second or third wear, you could see a creasing along the front of the upper, and you do get a lot of creasing on the side where there is a lot of bending. Additionally, it's extremely minimal. There is no padding anywhere on this shoe. There might be slightly some padding at the back. It's extremely light and actually pleasant on foot. Moving on to the outsole. So the outsole here is really good, very, very flexible. It's a 3mm outsole with these hexagonal lugs, which actually gives the shoe very good grip. Vivobarefoot also say this is a punch-out resistant outsole, which is really important. Additionally, I would say this is actually thinner and more of a barefoot grounded experience than I've seen in other Vivobarefoot shoes. For instance, the Primus family range, you get a very sensory experience where you're getting a lot of feedback from the ground. The insole is a very normal Vivobarefoot insole, cork based. It does get worn out pretty quickly. A quick note on the laces, they are a little bit long, which does tend to happen on Vivobarefoot shoes, but these are organic cotton. They've held up very well. Let's move on to the fit and sizing of this shoe. So an important thing to notice here, so because I use these in the office, I am wearing these for a 9-to-5 job, so up to 10 hours sometimes, keeping them on foot. So that does make them quite unique in terms of some of the other barefoot shoes that I do own, where you might be only wearing those for an hour or two. So the comfort is an important aspect here, and this shoe does extremely well on that. The toe box I find is really wide for Vivobarefoot. My foot has plenty of space to splay the toe and I don't find any issue at all. In terms of volume, it's actually a very low profile shoe, which is quite common on Vivobarefoot shoes. I think it adds to the overall aesthetic of the shoe, but people looking for a higher volume shoe might have issues here. In terms of lockdown to the shoe, lockdown isn't great because this isn't a elastic or stretchy upper at all. There can be a little bit of space in between your foot and the upper, and there is a little bit of wiggle room. And again, and I assume most people who wear that aren't going to be doing anything more intensive than walking, so it isn't a huge problem. The foot does move around a little because I think I do have a higher size in the EU 47, but I would make that trade-off over having the extra toe room space versus having a tighter fit in the midfoot. In terms of sizing, I definitely say this is true to size. This is in EU 47. I don't feel it's too long in the toes, but I do feel there's plenty of space in that width, and there is a little bit of wiggle room here. Also, because most people would be wearing this shoe for long periods of time, you wouldn't want it too snug around the ankle, so I think they have it just right. In terms of the on-foot feeling, it feels extremely light, doesn't feel heavy in any sort of way. You're getting a lot of sensory feedback from the ground here, and it's good to be able to stretch out your feet during the day, even in an office environment, which you can do due to that flexible upper material. Let's talk about how the shoe performs actually in its intended setting and the durability of the shoe. So when I took these shoes into the office, I was actually quite worried that I'd be called out for it, just to the fact that they look so different to normal shoes. Two normal shoes I actually still own but don't wear, these older shoes, but this is what I used to wear. But that was all in my head. This wasn't an issue at all. I don't think anyone's actually ever noticed. After day one, I wasn't worried at all, and I'd completely switched over. That being said, due to the creasing nature of this shoe, I definitely wouldn't be dressing it up further. If I had a really fancy dinner to go to, a wedding, for instance, or any more formal event, I'd be wearing something a bit different, which does not have that creasing, and you can get a bit more shine on the shoe. In terms of the upper, other than the creasing, the actual upper materials held up pretty well considering how much I have used it. There is some scruffing marks on the top, but to be honest, nothing that I wouldn't expect from a shoe using it this amount. In terms of grip, I think this is outstanding grip, to be honest. You can see it's worn quite a lot in the forefoot, but I still feel really confident with it. The hexagonal lugs on it really bite the pavement when you need it. So for instance, when you're walking back and it starts raining, you'll have a lot of confidence that this is gonna serve you well. Compare that to on a more formal shoe, there's hardly any grip that you can see there. I actually can't believe I used to wear these shoes. But anyway, so in the wet weather, with rain, they've been okay. There is a bit of frizzing around the collar here, but held up extremely well for me, so top marks there. With outsole, that has actually been stitched on to the upper. There hasn't been any issues with that stitching. It's held up very well, no peeling, and there doesn't seem to be any signs that the outsole is going to come off anytime soon. Let's talk a bit about the pricing of this shoe. So this shoe costs around 180 to 190 USD, which is a lot of money. There are a few things to bear in mind. One being the materials that they have used. They are very premium, not using metals in the process to make the leather. The second being the stitching and how they've stitched it to the upper. The process they've used actually means you have a very flexible shoe and you don't have any stiffness around the stitching, which makes the shoe more minimal and doesn't inhibit the movement of your feet as much. That being said, at 180 USD, it is still very expensive. I would recommend trying to shop around for earlier versions of this. This is the third version. The other versions, I think you have the 4 out now as well, aren't too different from this. So if you can pick up something cheaper than 180, I definitely recommend it. They're still great shoes. Additionally, on Vivobarefoot's website, I've seen these in the low 100 marks. I think the shoes that come out of there are still very good quality. So let's look at a few competitors to the Vivobarefoot RA. I do have my hands on a few shoes that do fit the bill for me. The first being from Vivobarefoot, and that is their Gobby boots. This is the Luxe version. So you can see it's a high top shoe instead of a low top Oxford. Immediately off the back, the Luxe version does have a more premium leather there. There's not as much creasing as the RA. So if you are looking for an RA without the creasing, consider the RA Luxe if you want that low top version. All around, I think this is a great shoe as well. It feels really premium in hand. I don't like the boot construction as much and how that wraps around your foot, and as well the insole doesn't sit well in the shoe for me either. And additionally, this is really expensive. I think almost at the 250 USD range. The second shoe is from Belenka, and I just got my hands on this shoe. I haven't tested it, but I do have it in hand. I'll be testing it after this shoe, and that is the Belenka Cityscape. Now right off the bat, it looks very good because I haven't worn it yet, but there are a few things to note. First being, it weighs a lot more. The upper, you have a lot more padding. You can tell around the heel collar, which is more like a traditional office shoe. It definitely isn't. It is more flexible than a traditional office shoe, but nowhere near as much as the Vivobarefoot RA. So if you're more of a beginner and just getting started on the barefoot journey, I'd recommend this one for you. If you really want a more barefoot experience with a lot more feedback, a much more minimal upper, I'd be recommending the Vivobarefoot RA instead. Third option is from Zero. It's an Oxford style shoe that does cost a lot less, is not a leather shoe, and that is their Xerox Glen. It's very similar to the Belenka Cityscape. There is a bit more padding around the collar. It isn't as flexible as the Vivobarefoot RA. Additionally, this is a lot cheaper. I think you can get this around that 100 USD mark. It is considerably cheaper than the RA. One caveat with this shoe is the grip. It's pulling on this shoe, so don't wear it in the wet. So if you're looking for a non-leather, cheaper version of the RA, I definitely consider this, that you can wear in a work setting. But make sure you're subscribed for the review coming soon on this. So overall, what is my verdict on the Vivobarefoot RA? I think this is a fantastic barefoot shoe for the office or any more formal corporate setting that you do need it for. The only real critique I have of the shoe is around the creasing on this upper, around the side and on the front. Otherwise, I think it's a fantastic shoe if you want a true barefoot shoe experience, and it's very light. In terms of the positives, you're getting a very true barefoot experience with a lot of feedback from the ground, and you're having a very light and comfy on-foot experience. If you have a 9-to-5 job and you need something for the office at a decent price, you pick this up on Vivobarefoot's resale website, Vivobarefoot, and you have a winner. If you're looking for a more budget orientated shoe, I'd be going more down the Xerox or the Balenka route. Additionally, if you do need to dress this up, I'd be looking more at the Gobi Luxe or the Luxe version of this shoe. So that's my take on the Vivobarefoot RA. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Have you got a favorite barefoot shoe for the office? Let me know what it is in the comments below. Like this video if you did enjoy it, and please subscribe. I have videos coming out weekly on different barefoot and wide toe box shoe brands, whether they're running shoes, shoes for the office, casual sneakers, or even shoes for the gym. So make sure you're subscribed for that. But thank you for watching. Remember to find width in the toe boxes of shoes you wear, and I'll catch you in the next review.